Good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode two of Lex Talk. Today, we're discussing the laws that impact human resource professionals. And I don't need to introduce our guest on today's show, but a person that's an associate director at a leading multinational consulting firm. The associate director, HR. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mrs. Kalpita De Mello.
Thank you, Floyd.
Kalpita, thanks for consenting to be on Lex Talk.
Pleasure is mine.
Kalpita has a very diverse portfolio and Kalpita has immense experience in the field of human resource. And today we're going to discuss with her the various aspects and issues that are dealt with as HR professionals on a daily basis. So thank you, Kalpita, once again for being on Let's Talk. And let's quickly, briefly discuss, the current issues, especially the issues post the pandemic and, dealing with HR related issues in the current times and of course where the legal system fits in, the legal knowledge fits in to survive on a daily basis. To start with,
Floyd, sorry. So
no,
I
go
was
ahead.
saying, Floyd, it's very important for any HR professional to strategically manage the employees within an organization while remaining compliant with the laws that govern employee rights and employers' obligation. If any organization violates these complex and ever-changing regulations, the company is at risk, including lawsuits, financial losses, and reputational damages. Right. So any HR professional having common knowledge of their workplace of the various employment laws is very important because this knowledge gives them the confidence to make decisions in their workplace and also knows when to reach out to an outside counsel. Now this has become more prevalent during COVID times because right sizing, you know how do you deal with work from home, what do you do with employees who wouldn't want to come into workplace. I mean, these were some of the questions that were raised, and it was very difficult in last year to have responses to all these challenging questions, right? And that's where having knowledge of the various laws or how to deal with these situations came to front, and that's where I feel it's very important that you should have the knowledge of the various laws and how you deal with them.
Perfect. So effectively what you're saying is, the knowledge of law is very crucial to survive as an HR professional.
It is, and I would say it's not just for HR function, but any other function. If you are in finance, if you're in, I don't think sales and marketing needs so much of legal functionality, but yeah, I mean HR to an extent, I would say you definitely need knowledge about the various laws.
So effectively what you are saying is what we in legal terminology call ignorantia juris non excusa. Ignorance of law is no excuse.
Yeah, absolutely agree to that.
And it's effectively what you're saying is the law is the one tool that you require in almost every walk of life, which I of course fully agree with you.
Definitely.
I'm sure you must have had a lot of problems with non-disclosure, confidentiality, non-competes, all of that with work from home last year, and
We
this year
did
must have
have,
brought in
yeah.
a whole other set of issues. Could you share some of your experiences on all of that?
Sure. So, see, the industry that I work in, and having presence globally, work from home as a concept was not alien to us, right? Um, Many a times people chose to work from home, and then we basically had some sort of a policy around it. So I wouldn't say we had lot many issues to deal with when it came to non compete or confidentiality or data privacy. um, but I have observed around me that many companies who did not allow work from home as a basic policy for their employees had to deal with such issues, and then they did not know where to look, how to deal with such challenging issues. And probably that is the reason why the terminations, because of privacy issues, the terminations because people couldn't work from home properly or couldn't come to the workplace, was something happened last year at a large scale. In fact, I would like to ask you how, in your experience, last year and this year, you have seen, the changes in the employment terms or contracts, or even, retrenchment or termination situations like these. I mean, how have you seen the difference between last year and this year?
First of all, last year, I mean, when the pandemic hit, so when lockdown one started, the first problem is okay. First of all, it happened so suddenly. We were not really prepared for COVID to hit us. So the first thing is every industry that we work with and every corporate that we work with had a problem. I'm sure you all didn't because you already had a structure of work from home. But most of the guys who were accustomed to physical brick and mortar offices, the first thing had to try to start getting things to move. So once the things started opening up, the first thing people had to do was moving things out to employees' homes. Now with that came a host of legal problems. The confidentiality, even for us as a law firm, there were a lot of concerns that came up because, when you're working in an office environment, you have your own, your IT security and you have everything controlled. Now, what happens is when you're working with private internet lines, when you're working with each one working from their own laptops and things like that, how do you maintain, data security? How do you maintain privacy, confidentiality, all of that? Client
Right.
data has to be kept secure at all times. You can't, have a breach.
Correct. Correct.
Uh, so this becomes a problem even till date. This is a persisting problem. Like for us, juniors and all have a lot of issues because they are working from their private IDs. So
Correct.
the associate and higher, who have got corporate IDs, it's a little easier. But people working from personal IDs becomes very difficult to coordinate and then to share data. So
Correct.
what we do is general work we pass on to them, or general research we pass on to them. But documents which are of a secured nature are handled only by the core team, which works on secured IDs.
Right.
In terms of employment, and then you would know this better because actually you should be throwing light on this. The financial constraints that we are all facing. The financial constraints that every organization is facing is one compelling organizations to, as you call it, right size. You are, more often optimizing your human resources and then shrinking if necessary or cutting down staff if necessary or whatever.
Hmm.
The other trend which I'm going to get to, and I want your opinion on that, is the whole concept of retainers in gig based employment or
Right.
specific task based employment where people are just taken on limited purpose contracts for
Hmm.
a particular job. So what we do also with lawyers is we'll employ a lawyer for a particular case or pay them per appearance or whatever. Because right now with the uncertainty in terms of work coming in, it's very difficult to make a for an organization to make a full time commitment. So the kind of contracts, the kind of way contractual employment is done, the way staff contracts are done, or gig based assignment contracts are done, is all very different. Now, when you do gig based, also what happens, or even retainers, these are professionals that are working with the organization, but they're not actually members of the organization.
Correct.
So legally, they're not my employees or they're not your employees. They're just professionals who are working with you on a particular task or on a particular basis, on a basis of a certain agreement.
Hmm.
Now, what happens with that is, again, then you have to be all the more particular in terms of things like non-disclosures, non-competes, confidentiality, data protection, all of these things. Because what happens is your data would be moving outside the organization.
Correct.
Retainers, gig employees would probably be working from their own machines, their own IDs, their own accounts. Data would be moving from your servers to theirs and back. In such a
Correct.
case, you have to be pretty confident that these guys would not leak it or at any point not misuse the data because they don't have the kind of employment contracts that a full-time employee would have. So these are
Right.
various issues that have come up between last year and this year. And of course, for the employee point of view, also it's come with a host of job security issues because everything being so temporary in nature, your certainty may last probably 2 months, 3 months till that assignment is over, and then you're not even sure if you'll be renewed or if you'll be given a further assignment or not.
Right. So, in my experience, Floyd, what I have observed last year is now last year was the year where a lot of right sizing, as we now call it, happened in many of the companies, right? Um, so, how do you terminate people basis no work? I mean, that's again is one of the reason I think that you cannot terminate an employee, right? And if you want to terminate, then there is a whole lot of procedure that you have to file with the Industrial Disputes Act as per the industrial.
You'll have to go off as per layoff and all of that as per the
Correct,
Industrial
correct.
Disputes Act.
So I think last year was the year where it happened in a way that I don't think the government bodies could do much about it because it was a genuine situation, um, and I don't think hiring has also taken place. Okay, people were trying to the companies were trying to actually see how they can utilize the workforce that they have and how best they can be utilized. Many companies have taken an effort to not, retrench their workforce or right size their workforce. So I applaud to those companies, and we were one of them. But now that the COVID phase is into the second year, vaccinations are in place, the companies are now reviving. I see a very big change in hiring. What we hired, let's say in 2019, we are hiring that same amount in just 6 months. You know, so not just in my industry or within the industry that we are in, but I'm seeing this happening in various companies as well, various industries as well. So now, if you ask me, people want to work on contracts, the answer is no. Do they want to become retainers? The answer is no. Do they want to be called as gig economy? The answer is no. People are looking for permanent employment, and companies are now offering permanent employment. There will be, of course, a set of industry pockets of functions which still doesn't have enough of work, and probably those are the companies, um, sorry, I'm getting a call. Those are the companies um, will basically have retainer models or consultancy approach or gig model, right? But what I always wanted to understand from you, Floyd, is retainers. I understand they come in for a specific work. They engage for that particular task or a period, and then they leave the organization. How about gig economy? I mean, what kind of compliances do we need to have around hiring gig economy, or who are gig economy? Because I understand somebody, delivering food, or somebody, a freelancer, or or somebody as a fitness trainer is termed as gig economy, right?
So actually, very politely, you brought lawyers down to the level of food delivery guys. Because most of the time, lawyers are either retainers or gig employees. Corporates will come to us for a specific target when the legal departments in-house, need expertise from the outside. Most of the time, it's either done by the HR or it's done by the legal team in-house. So
Correct.
effectively, I mean, we're delivering food packages.
So
Maybe
how,
food for
what
thought,
kind?
but maybe it's food for thought, but effectively, we are, of course, a food delivery jet.
So,
Uh,
what compliance do we need to have around hiring gig economy?
See, the whole thing with the gig economy is basically if you're talking about hiring, hiring is a harmless process. Documentation is what you need to be cautious about because
Okay.
your contracts with them, your vendor agreements, or any sort of engagement contract. So, for instance, if you're doing, say, you've got somebody doing a website, so you've got a web developer, you've got an IT company coming in only for a particular upgrade or a particular task, not being your regular maintenance guy on contract. In such a case, or you're doing a social media campaign, a specific campaign where you call up a social media agency, they're retained as a on a gig basis, particularly for that campaign. In such a case, what is crucial is the nature of the documentation, and the contract needs to specify and cover what you really want to have covered in it. So if it's whether it's confidentiality, whether it's proprietary rights, or it's secret information that you're passing on in terms of an internal process or whatever. So even companies that make educational documentaries for their staff, they
Hmm.
sign non-disclosure agreements with the production company, so that basically whatever information was passed on to the production company for the purpose of making the documentary, that information is not leaked, because if that information is leaked, you could be up for trouble.
Right.
So it's basically a matter of, as you say, contracts are a matter of solicitation. It will be basically a matter of negotiation, solicitation, and basically then understanding the terms and making it clear. The way you secure it is basically to make sure it is clear between your gig vendor, your gig employee, and the
The
parent
organization.
organization,
Yeah.
so that at no point tomorrow there is a future conflict. Otherwise, what happens, it could get into problems, and where there is third party details involved, third party data involved, if there is a breach, you could have technical issues. Also,
Correct.
compliance is making sure they fulfill the requirements of the organization, all of that needs to be spelled out. Now with a full-time employee, you don't have to really spell everything out to them.
Correct. Yeah. Very, very, valid points you put out there. But another point that I have on my mind is now with the new, wage code changes that we are hoping to come in few months' time. How does this all sit with the that compliance versus retainer model, consultancy model, gig model?
I'm not actually a labor council, but effectively, again, with the new changes in provisions, even gig and this thing should be getting covered in it. To
Hmm.
what I generally and vaguely know, I
Okay.
have not studied the policy in detail, so it's not fair for me to comment. But
No problem.
there is also, I mean, effectively, there is a need to regulate the unregulated sector. So gig employees, retainers, all of them, because right now it's purely a contractual matter.
Okay.
So, it's sort of in between. It's like, basically you need to have provisions for people who are not full-time absorbed by the organization. So there is a need for regulation on that front.
Right. Because now I understand more than ever, compliances have become very stringent, in all possible states that we are in, at least. And I know the amount of statutory laws and acts that you as a principal employer and then your vendors have to be compliant with.
True.
Yeah, so it's really very important for an HR professional to be updated, on all these new guidelines that are happening around in each states, and how you have to be compliant with all these
Very
acts.
true. So, and I mean, as you rightly said at the start, ignorance of law is no excuse. And, and any professional, be it HR or otherwise, I mean, the need to know the law is important, because once you know the law, you ensure that you are complying with it.
Correct.
A lot of the cases is not willful disobedience, but it's inadvertence, and basically the lack of legal knowledge. And people do things without realizing there is a law which they need to comply. So it's not like they want to break the law, but they don't even know the law exists. So then the
Correct.
question of compliance doesn't arise, and it's purely a matter of not knowing the law. It's basically inadvertence and you know not having the necessary legal knowledge that creates the problem. It's not really a matter of willful disobedience. So knowing the law at every stage, and in whatever walk of life a person is in, is paramount to survive.
Correct. And also the interpretation of what that law is, Floyd. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, you wouldn't
Yeah, of course. I mean, when
necessarily
you know the law,
know.
you need to know the interpretations and the implications.
Yeah. Correct.
Also, the operational and practical standpoint,
Yeah.
because there is the statutory procedures or the statutory process which is laid down by the law, and then as you know the operational procedures, you need to know how to actually enforce the law and make sure you're 100% compliant.
Yes. Absolutely right.
And that, of course, only comes with being in the industry and practice.
Yeah.
So moving forward, I mean, what are the, I think you've already covered this really, the
Hmm.
issues with freelance consulting and COVID related issues. How is the retainer model catching on today? I mean, I know you
Um.
mentioned people prefer
Yeah. In my
permanent employment to retainers.
Floyd, yes, over last year compared to this year, we are looking at people who want permanent contracts. Um, in a very select case where the skill is a very critical skill, the project that we want to deploy, that person is going to be a very critical skill, and that person would say, okay, fine, I'm willing to come on a fixed term contract, which is like a 12 months contract. Then those are the cases we have, but otherwise everybody is now wanting permanent contract. And what I feel is happened this year is a candidates market. The companies are no longer have the upper hand here. I mean, it's like the candidates are dictating term to an organization, and the organization, in the wake of filling having to recruit right talent and right people, um, they have no choice but to acknowledge the demands of the candidate. And that's exactly what I see is happening, not just India, but I see this as a global phenomenon.
So basically, the candidates with talent can call the shots, and
Absolutely.
if you don't have the industry requirements, it's a tough life getting a job.
Absolutely.
So that's food for thought, I think, for every potential employee, because you need to be up there at the top of the chain if you really need to be making your demands to the organization.
Yes.
That's a very valuable point you brought to the table in terms of, for people, even legal professionals doing this. Very important to understand that you need to be at the top of the pyramid if you really need to be calling the shots as far as your employment is concerned. Otherwise, I guess you probably just take what you get,
Yes, that's exactly what is
which is,
happening
of course, very
also.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
How do you really feel in terms of the work from home and hybrid models, and the partial come to office, partial work from home models?
See, as I was telling you a few minutes ago, our organization already had this in place. We had work from home. So working from home and then slowly coming into the hybrid work model was not big of a challenge. In fact, I would say some of my colleagues prefer to be in office than working from home, because working from home to an extent, has what has happened is it has blurred the work life balance of any
Very
employee,
true.
right? So they don't know when they are starting, they don't know when they are ending their days, so they prefer to come to office, they prefer to sit with their colleagues, their peers, have those discussions, those meetings, because then there is a start time and an end time, right? So many organizations, Floyd, I have seen around me, are facing this challenge. I mean, who did not have work from home as a model, um, basically, didn't know how to start it, how to implement it, and how to get their employees to work around that model. And now that the hybrid, everybody is talking about hybrid model, right? It's coming from UK, Europe, and USA to India. So now, some of the people do not want to come to office. Some says, well, I was working from home the last year. Why do I need to come to office now? So there again is challenge for those organizations as to how do you exercise your terms and conditions to get that employee to work, or at least come into work, say 2 or 3 times a week.
And I guess most of these employees must have been employed pre-COVID, so all these conditions would not be laid down in the contracts.
Absolutely. And even if we hired anybody last year, you wouldn't put these as some of your preconditions in your contract, because you don't know how long the COVID is going to last. So last year we thought
Very
that
true.
it's going to be, until
We
end
thought
of
this year we'd
December.
be back to
Correct.
normal.
Correct, exactly. So I don't think many organizations have inserted these clauses, the vaccination or working from home or the hybrid model, or your presence is required in office for certain days in a week. I mean, these are still not prerequisite of, hiring people, right? But
And I
there are
guess you must be
challenges.
playing it by ear depending on the requirement.
Absolutely. And also, I see that counseling is the only way, So people have fear of COVID, people have fear of traveling, people don't want to come in a crowded workplace, although you would have social distancing and all norms placed by an organization. But there is this inherent fear somebody would have, and you can only deal with that either by way of counseling. So the HR also has, another part of their role to counsel employees, or you can use the employee assistance program if any organization has, where they counsel or mentor the people to remove fear of C-19 or getting back to the normal, so to say.
So I'm sure it's daily life as an HR professional is loaded with challenges, and every day is a new day with a new set of challenges.
Absolutely.
But I fully agree with work from home. I mean, has its own challenges. Apart from the the work-life balance, even the office infrastructure is not available at all. The kind of
Yes,
facilities you have in a corporate office is quite different to what you can really have at home.
correct,
Like for us, the major problem is libraries, because we don't have the physical libraries to the extent that you have it in a corporate office.
correct. Yep. So all profession, all function has their own challenges.
And it's all HR professionals that make sure we circumvent and surmount these challenges and make sure we move it to the next day.
True.
Any further issues that you've dealt with with the hybrid model and coordinating all of these things in employments and contracts?
Um, I think, Floyd, it's more about, I mean, one is the compliance, setting the compliance, or maintaining the compliance. I think the one challenge that I always see, and I'm sure all HR professional would get nervous around, is termination. You know, it's not an easy task. It's not like telling somebody you don't come from tomorrow, sort of a thing, right? Because it could be termination because of misconduct or poor performance, or insubordination, and so on. um, it's a different topic, and your opinion about it would have another session that we may have to schedule. But quickly, Floyd, just to talk about termination, and what are those top 3 4 things that an HR professional should always remember or can refer to while dealing with termination cases? What is your opinion?
Termination really stems from your initial contract. So it all goes back to your employment contract, or to the the basis of the employment. And generally for termination, I mean, if it's a case of insubordination or it's a case of misconduct or whatever, this would generally be a violation of the contract. So if it's a breach of the contract or breach of any parts of the contract like non-disclosure, non-compete, etc., in such a case, at least it makes your life a little easier. But when it comes to things like performance and all, like you rightly mentioned,
Hmm.
delivery of assignments and things like that, that becomes very difficult to actually take a call, because it's not really quantified and qualified. When it's a clear case of breach of an agreement or breach of a contract, you can effectively tell an employee that, okay, this is what you were expected to do or required to do under the contract, and you haven't done it. The question
Right.
is, performance is a matter of, I tried my level best, but unfortunately my best is not good enough. So the question is, how do you really quantify and qualify such a thing?
Hmm.
Because maybe I'm just not good enough, but I'm trying my best, but my best doesn't meet the industry expectations or doesn't meet your job requirements. So effectively, I am really struggling to do my best, but my best ain't good enough. So the question is, then how do you, let me down gently and tell me
Correct.
that, it's easy said and done when we talk professional to professional, but when you have to talk, literally as they say, downward communication to an employee and tell them, you're working, but it ain't good enough. It's not as easy as, we can put it across to each other.
Absolutely, and it's quite a bit of a stress that a HR professional has to go through because they are the ones who are going to review the situation and give their recommendations, right? It's not, never an easy one.
But
Which
especially, I'm sure if the employee is someone senior, someone who's been around with the organization for a long period of time, it must be
hmm,
making your lives all the more difficult.
absolutely, but also from the aspect of Floyd, I said, the employee's obligation. So we are not, in a situation where we hire and fire people at our will, right? There are some obligations, compliances that we need to keep in mind before we take those decisions. So would you say that you try and change you or at least review your terms and conditions every 2 years, 3 years, so that you add or delete what is new, what are the new rules, what are the new set of things that we need to put into our contracts?
That is absolutely necessary. I would fully agree with you on that, especially in current times. Because if you employed somebody, say as of the end of Feb March 2020, that is before COVID hit us, the entire way of employment would have been different.
Hmm.
And then you had COVID hitting, then work from home came in, and the entire work culture, the way of things moving forward was different. Which means the way you contract with such employees would be different. And
Correct.
looking today at a year plus through COVID, again things have changed. So the need of the hour today is again different from what it was last year, June, July, August.
Correct.
When things were opening up for the first time post the first lockdown.
Right.
So things are changing, and again what happens is today why people are also looking at more fluid contracts is because times have become so uncertain. We don't know what's the next 2 months or the next 3 months. Like you rightly pointed out, last year we thought by this year we'd be back to normal functioning. This
Correct.
year again we're not back to normal functioning. We don't know where the next quarter is going to take us, and we don't know what's going to happen for 22. So
Absolutely.
everyone from an employer to an employee is living with this sort of uncertainty lurking around,
Hmm.
and that gives rise to the need for a more fluid contract, something that can be amended and adapted more easily. So generally, also shorter term agreements gives you that flexibility, because then when you look at a shorter term agreement, so instead of doing a 1 year contract, say you do a 3 month or a 6 month, you are then at liberty to decide whether you want to extend that contract or not. With permanent employment, of course, you have to be a little more cautious, because then it's a lifetime commitment. You can't just disengage an employee suddenly at whim and fancy.
Correct.
See, with
But Floyd,
contracts, if your commitment is restricted to a certain period, say you've done a 6 month contract, your commitment is restricted to 6 months, and you are not under any obligation then to extend for a further period. You would obviously like to extend, but if
hmm,
circumstances are constraining, or if an employee doesn't deliver on par, or there is any sort of issue with the employment relationship, you can always then refuse to extend. But with permanent employment, it becomes a lot more difficult. And then you have
true.
also statutory compliances, like you rightly pointed out.
Correct. Yeah, I guess then
I,
that's what
I
we have
think
covered.
we largely covered the entire gamut of the HR professional world and its legal impacts. Any closing comments, any words of advice to the HR professionals, all legal professionals working in the HR space?
Sure,
Uh,
sure. So Floyd, I think HR. professionals are accountable, right, for their own functions and also the compliance in any organization. So staying legally compliant at all times is very crucial. Also knowing the learnings that you have, how to implement it, how to apply it for the situations that arises in your organization is equally important. So keeping yourself updated, various sessions are available. I'm sure you will be doing one very soon for HR professionals. These are some of the things that
It's
you
in the
can.
pipeline, so
I'm looking forward to, Floyd, because it's really very important nowadays, to know what's happening, to be on top of things, and then you can implement those things in your workplace, right? So I would say that yes, I mean, keeping yourself updated is key. Knowing and implementing is another, crucial thing to for any HR professional.
perfect. Thanks a million for all your valuable insights, and it was great having you, Kalpit, on Lex Talk episode 2, where we dealt with laws for HR professionals. That was fabulous value and great knowledge coming from someone who spent almost her entire life with the HR profession.
Thank you, Floyd. I really enjoyed our discussion and I look forward for this session of yours, and I'm going to join it for sure.
That would be a challenging task to impart knowledge to you. I mean, some probably knowledge more than RT would probably have, but at least the experience you have in the field is far too much for a firm to educate you. But definitely, we'd love to have you on board for more talks also at Lex Talk, and probably as a guest lecturer for
Wow.
the course when it starts.
Sure, sure, Floyd. Thank you once again for inviting me.
Thank you for taking time out to be with us. And it was extremely fantastic to have Kalpita Debello on Lex Talk with us discussing the laws and the impact of legalities on HR professionals and the entire working relationship of legal knowledge and HR professionals. Thank you so much, Kalpita Debello, for joining us. And we will see you on the 4th Saturday of September with another discussion with another industry professional. Stay tuned to Lex Talk for another enlightening session. Thank you.